All right, the next step, after we've now completed all of our research, we've done our outline, we've even done our first draft, now it's time to create our first works cited page. So what we're going to do is go back to the EasyBib toolbar. Instead of clicking on the citing EasyBib, now we're going to go view bibliography. So this is going to give us kind of a readout of all the sources we used. And we want to wait until this step to do this, because just in case when you're doing your draft, you might find out you find more information from a different source, or you need to get more information to support maybe an argument you're making. So that's why you want to wait, just because you don't want to build the works cited page and then find out you have to add another source to it. So again, if you ever encounter this situation where it pops up with this price thing, all we have to do is remove our pop-up blocker. So you go ahead, disable it, and then you might have to refresh the page in order to get it to kind of re-go. So I'm going to click view bibliography again. And again, to make sure your ad block is not working, if you don't see, if it's not red, that means it's deactivated. If it's showing red kind of in your extension, that means that it's still on and working. So you will have to turn that off if you kind of see those kind of pricing things there. So now I'm kind of got it reloaded here. So I have all my 4 sources. I ended up with 4 sources that I was going to use. And now the next step is very important to make sure to do it this way to kind of save yourself some time and hassle. So we're going to, number 1, export button. So you'll see that little orange export button kind of pop up here once my screen's done loading. And then what we're going to do is, what we want to do is save it to Google Docs, just in case something happens where we need to fix something, or we find out we missed the part, or we have to add to it. I always say save to Google Docs, since we have those accounts already set up. It's a nice way to kind of keep things for later if you need them. So basically, you're going to click on that. It'll take a couple seconds for it to kind of load. And what it's going to do is actually going to do all of the organizing and formatting for you. So it'll put everything in alphabetical order. It'll put the right indents in, and it also kick it out to your Google Docs. So it's a nice way to kind of quickly arrange everything. So it will probably prompt you to sign back in. There will also be, if it's your first time using EasyBib, it will probably ask for permission to allow EasyBib to access your Google Documents and your Google Drive. You just have to click allow or yes to that. And then you'll come to this screen where basically it says that the file is successfully uploaded. And now we're going to go to Google Docs to view it. And then by clicking that link, it'll actually pop up your works cited page. And even though it does it kind of automatically for you, it's always a good idea to go through and double check to make sure that it's looking accurate. So number 1 thing I'm seeing is I'm seeing a last name, first name. So if you see that it gets mixed up where the first name's here showing up first, then we know something's wrong. Or if we have an author and the author's name isn't listed, or part of it's listed. So that's kind of what we're looking for, just making sure that things don't look a little bit goofy. Now, right away, I see something that is a little bit off here. So if I go up to here, we see that we kind of have ncaa.com thrown in. So basically that just means that I kind of missed probably a spot where it basically had Joe Boozle, ncaa.com. And usually that happens when it's called credentials. So a writer is just kind of telling you who the writer is writing for, but that's something that doesn't belong there. So what I'll notice that it says Joe Boozle. So I'm going to put Boozle in the right spot. Also, we're looking, anytime you see kind of these weird lines or anything, that's where we also want to kind of delete those, because those don't belong in there. And then, so that looks a lot better there. And notice too that I have Boozle, Joe. So then that means I need to copy and paste that up here, because that doesn't belong to fit that alphabetical order. Because again, B goes before D. And then I also have something kind of funky happening here. It looks like that when the when EasyBib kind of pulled this source, that it must have also like grabbed his Twitter handle, it looks like. So it looks like that's the only thing that's wrong with it. So all I got to do is kind of back that off and then make sure that it is kind of fitting. And then one thing too, whenever you're doing formatting, trying to work with formatting, sometimes you have to kind of hit enter and backspace a few times to kind of play with it. Google is a little goofy that way, where sometimes it doesn't work perfectly, especially from formatting. So now that I've kind of got that kind of fixed up, then I'm going to double check again for alphabetical order. Everything looks great there. And then I'm ready to move on to the next step. The next step is basically taking your works cited page. All you need to do is take the whole thing. I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to go to my document, basically my paper document. Just scroll all the way to the bottom. So your works cited page should be a separate page. So now that you have your draft written, you just, again, find your document that you have it on, copy and paste it in, and then you're ready to go. That's how you make your works cited page.